Alrighty, hello internet. Let's see if we can get started here. Hey Tutu, yeah, this is indeed kind of a ninja stream. What happened is I was having my lunch earlier and I figured, hey, this work that I've been doing today would actually work kind of well on stream. I mean, it's no secret that the new live stream channel is a little bit anemic and doesn't have all that much material on it. We could use some more stuff on there that people can watch when they arrive at the channel, and at the same time we could use some more subscribers and all of that. And I figured, hey, let's just stream this work that I'm doing here. So even though I've been doing a lot of programming lately, what with all of these foreign languages that we've introduced into our little code base here, I've also been chugging along with the actual game development here in the background, doing all kinds of things like level design and feature development and all of that, right? And actually, a few streams ago, we did a little bit of work on this level here. This level, which is proving to be pretty ambitious, let's just say. It was supposed to be a simple little canyon with some things right next to it, and it's proving to be kind of a tricky thing to design. Yeah, I'm spending quite a lot of time on this lately, and my next piece of work here is basically to take this end of the level here, basically all of these cliffs here, all of these guys are just kind of sporadically added here. Let's just move them out of the way. This is kind of what I have currently. So sort of like a canyon thingy here with some roads going every other way. Nothing is final here, by the way. If you're looking at this and thinking that looks kind of rough, yeah, it's super rough. Like this bridge here, for example, is just completely out of scale. Looks kind of horrible and is way overdue for a refresh. But I've been sort of working on this main canyon thingy here for a little while. Also have some pretty rough patches up here where you'll actually be starting the mission. And then we have a whole area here across the bridge, which is completely undesigned still. So that would be that, but just getting this main canyon thingy here to actually, get it to a reasonable state has been quite a lot of work. And what I've been doing today is a lot of work here on this end of the level, right? So this is the end of the playable area ends here with this bridge. But we need a little bit of visual content to kind of end the level here, right? And I want this to look like, we have these very large sort of plains here in this world. Let's just quickly have a look here. Well, actually, we can take this level here. I'm not even gonna tell anything more because I don't really want to spoil the campaign for you guys. You're seeing sort of like pieces plucked here and there from the campaign, and so I don't want to spoil it. I just want to show some pieces here without spoiling a whole lot of the story and all of that, right? We have this huge plain here, which it's kind of foggy actually in this level. Maybe it would be kind of nicer to look at it in the demo level. But anyway, imagine a large plain like this, and the idea here is that we should be seeing that large plain basically from this end of the level here when you're standing here on this road or this bridge. And so I've been thinking about, okay, how do we actually want to kind of end this level? So I've just kind of sporadically placed some meshes here. You can see all of these meshes that are actually textured. They're just meshes that I've taken from that depot level that we're just in. So this thing is just like smooshed here. I think it actually kind of pokes through a little bit. I know for a fact that like we have some stuff here in this tunnel that is just like poking through the roof. Yep, stuff like that, because I just scaled up this mesh here and positioned it thusly. And here we have a big hole in the ground. And yeah, this doesn't look particularly good here either. So what I'm gonna do today here on this stream is actually take these meshes here. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, 5 meshes here. We're gonna take these. We're gonna bring them into Blender Sync. We're gonna modify them, make them fit nicely. Then we're gonna probably merge them into maybe 2 or 3 meshes. We're gonna fill in these holes, and then perhaps we're even gonna add in that huge plane over there so that we can see out onto it, while still kind of giving the impression that, you know, this canyon here and everything is still continuing, even though the level is not. I get Gothic 1 walking around cozy feelings. Yes, you are the expert on coziness, right? We can take a quick stroll here through the level. Actually, start with that. So this is not where you would actually be starting, but this gives you kind of like a sense of the scale. It's actually quite large. Everything here is quite large. These bridges are quite large, and this road is quite large. The reason for that, of course, is that we have this thing called the mother vehicle, which is that yellow thing over there, which needs to fit in, well, not everywhere, but like in most of these, like these main sort of paths need to be traversable by this thing as well, which means that we need to keep that in mind. And yeah, not everything here will actually be, you know, traversable by the mother, just by design. But yeah, if we just switch to this guy here and we drive around with this a little bit, and yeah, I know we still don't have any sounds for this. I have it on my to-do list. I have several of those sounds already, I just haven't implemented them. Yeah, here we can see some stuff poking through the roof here, which is not ideal. Might actually even get stuck on some of this. So these are just kind of things that are now poking through here because of those. Yeah, oh, we have some craziness going on. Like, physics doesn't like when you drive through a single-sided collision, single-sided collision shape from the wrong side. Physics gets very cranky and tries to just eject you through that thing. Yeah, here you can see some of these meshes are kind of like not really aligned properly yet. That's fine. We will fix them in time. And when you have this huge vehicle, which not only do you need to be able to drive it here, but the AI also needs to be able to drive it here. So that's probably going to be another interesting stream when we actually add nav mesh to this level here, right? And then we ask the mother vehicle to come somewhere. Like here, for example, you can clearly see that there's not a place where the mother vehicle should be attempting to make a reverse turn. So what I did here is actually I added this small zone here, small piece of land next to this bridge, just so that the mother vehicle could do a reverse turn here if they need to do that sort of thing. But yeah, the sense of scale here is. Oh shit, we're gonna hit that thing again. Ah! Hey December Ray, welcome back. Today we're doing level design, or should I say maybe environment art, I guess, is perhaps the correct term. Let's see, if we angle down these cranes here, if we angle down the cranes, I'm just going to move that off to that side, we might be violently thrust through something here. You can see that piece of geometry there, which we will actually just remove in a second. Can I actually get... I can sort of get under it, yeah. Not the crane though. Not the crane though. Yeah, I can. Yeah, we'll actually be removing those in just a second. Now it will be very handy for us to just engage our reset functionality for both of those cranes. And they will handle the logic of actually resetting themselves. And yeah, again, there we have some tunnel ends not aligning up with the outer shell. So these are actually like separate meshes, the inner and outer part of that thing over there. Yeah, this might be kind of interesting to see how well the AI actually manages to traverse here. I'm sure we're gonna have to mark up all of these bridges and tunnels and things like that as like no reverse zones for the AI for this guy. This level is also, even though I'm not like utilizing all of the area that this level has, like you're never, for example, supposed to drive down there in the canyon, or in the canyon floor. This level here has the surface area, which is like roughly twice that of the demo mission, which is kind of crazy because I was thinking, yeah, the demo mission is probably like a pretty good kind of size for one of these levels. Turns out that when you have like natural environments like this that are slightly more complicated, it just takes up like a whole lot of space just to actually have them in the level. Things like this canyon here, just absolutely huge. But anyway, that's enough of that, I think, for now. Let's jump into Blender here and do a little bit of cleanup on these guys. So start by starting up the Blender Sync instance and doing a little bit of, oh come on, Blender 4.5, you're so very slow at starting. Yeah, so we have here, you can see this is clearly not finished. This is after we get this end piece done here. This is then the only remaining part of the canyon that's not, doesn't have some sort of at least white box geometry. But this mesh is actually a mesh that I originally created. Let's see if I can actually find that image. Yeah, this looks pretty good, actually. So here you can see like a very, very rough version of this same canyon here. So I started off by having a very crude version of the canyon in the shape of this mesh here. I think it's from like roughly this angle maybe. Then as I have been replacing parts of this with like actual meshes, I've been sort of eating up that mesh at the same time. So here we can look what we actually have left of that mesh now. If we get rid of the rest of the thing, we have basically like the very bottom of the canyon, and then this slight piece here, which I just mentioned, we actually need to replace. I don't think we're necessarily going to get to this thing today. And I think the first thing that I will do is I will actually make this this entrance here to this mysterious place, which I'm not going to tell you today what it's going to be. I will replace this with proper geometry and then do the bridge. The bridge is like horribly out of scale now. I think these sides are something like 4 meters tall or something, whatever. Let's see, what will you do if a player falls down to the canyon? Teleport them back or mission failed? The player will not be able to fall down to the canyon. That is my plan. Just like, again, if we go into the game here, just like here, if you try to drive off this cliff, you can't do that, no matter how much you try. Yeah, basically, the thing is though that I know some of these solutions might be a little controversial or feel kind of slightly inelegant. For example, we have here something that I call a slowdown zone. So now I'm holding the accelerator down. And you can see here now the car is braking. I actually still held the accelerator down. But we have something called a slowdown zone, which especially if you have vehicles that have cargo in them. So if we spawn like a gripper truck here, for example, and this thing has some valuable cargo in the back, and they kind of figure, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna speed down this road here. It's gonna be all fine. If you just have a blocker there with yeah, that wasn't a blocker, by the way. That was just the gripper arm hitting the ground. But yeah, if you have a vehicle like this, and the player kind of doesn't see that something is ending, like the level is actually ending here, they will get kind of mad about that. So I have something called a slowdown barrier. I'm still actually holding the accelerator down. And you can see that the vehicle actually slows down because this area here is annotated in such a way that like you can't actually drive very fast in that direction. Just so that if you have some cargo there, it doesn't go flying all over the place. Just because you drive like 100 kilometers per hour into a wall. And the same thing here is with well, I don't have any slowdown barriers here because it should be pretty obvious to anyone that if you drive down this place, bad things are gonna happen to you. But yeah, you can't actually drive off these cliffs. I may have to make it a little bit more like now it's just a physics blocker. May have to make it a little more kind of soft. The actual barrier there. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it, and I know it's gonna be probably a little bit annoying for certain players. It's a little bit annoying for me as well. But the thing is that I want this game to take place in these natural environments that have a lot of these kind of hazards, and I just don't want to not have those levels because of the fact that players can do stupid things. And I also don't want there to be a game over in this game. That's kind of like a design decision that I had. I kind of want to, you know, not have the player be able to drive down there just to be essentially like, you know, have to load the game or something. You could respawn the character or the vehicle up there, but that then introduces a lot of questions about like, okay, which dynamic objects were in the back of the vehicle? Are all of those gonna be counted or sort of accounted for when you drive off the cliff? That sort of thing. It's just like, it's technically kind of tricky in this game where you have these dynamic objects. some of which are actually kind of like gameplay relevant to the mission at hand. It can be kind of tricky to actually make it so that it's nice and it feels like, oh, okay, I got respawned, so I wasn't supposed to drive down there, but that's fine because it just worked very well. Here, I'm just quite simply like preventing you from doing that. So that's the plan for the canyon as well, and it's gonna be kind of tricky. It's gonna be kind of tricky actually. Not gonna lie, we might have to have some softer limits there than physics barriers, for example, because you know, if you come driving down this road here, and you have, you know, the mother vehicle has the cargo crane just poking out to the side. You can't have the cargo crane just like hitting the physical barrier and then just like going crazy. So there might be some interesting things to solve there. But that's the basic gist. The idea is that you're not supposed to be able to drive down off these cliffs. And also, what is supposed to happen here, for example, if you drive down here from this higher level down to this lower level, I think that should be allowed. So yeah, there's some interesting things to solve here. I don't actually know 100% is perhaps the best answer. But yeah, I've been thinking about these things, and we'll see what actually ends up happening. Anyway, before this very good question of yours, what I was about to say is that we will probably have to get rid of some of this geometry here, like these faces at least need to go. Because back when I designed this blue piece here, I was thinking the canyon would just continue straight. But I don't think I want to do that. I want to have this kind of centerpiece here and then open it up on both sides. I think that will probably look nicer and more sort of believable. To open up this vista here in such a way that it kind of works visually. So let's get rid of those. I have to get back to work. Well, thanks for checking in. Yeah, I know this was a little bit of a ninja stream, little bit of an unannounced middle of the workday sort of deal. At least it's the middle of the workday for me, so I expect it to be for other people as well. But yeah, have a nice continued workday, a few more hours, and then you get to have a weekend as well. See you later. Yeah, so let's actually get rid of, I think, all of this as well. That one too. So we have some terrain here. And this piece here, actually, if we go and have a look at it in the level editor, we can see that there's some faces there that aren't quite figured out. Yeah, here's some single-sided faces, things like that. That's all fine. We're gonna get back to this piece here later, so I'm just not gonna be concerned with that right now. And here we also have some rocks that are hovering in the air and don't actually even have an underside. But yeah, all of that's fine for now. So now that we have that piece kind of taken away, we can see that, okay, the terrain actually ends here. And I'm not gonna have any more terrain instances. I have 3 terrains already in this level, so that's like more than enough. That's like more than I would like to have, actually. We can look here at the base layer. We have terrain 1, 2, and 3. So terrain 1 is this terrain here in the canyon. We have terrain 2 here to the side, which is largely not used yet, and then we have terrain 3, which is this top part here. So here we will actually quite simply let this terrain end, I think, and then we will do the rest of this bottom here, which you will never get even close to. We will do with meshes. And we're not going to be able to do like final things today. Should be pretty obvious to anyone watching this, but I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that this is not doing any sort of final geometry or whatever. This is all very much still just whiteboxing. We're not going to do any texturing or anything like that, and these things are actually currently textured. Well, they won't be in a little bit when we actually replace them with Blender Sync versions. Maybe we should actually start by doing that. I think that might be a pretty good idea. I'm going to actually turn off the fog for this mission right now. I should make it easier to do certain things. So here we have 2 meshes here on this side. I'm thinking we'll have 3 meshes and then a 4th one for the ground. So we'll have 1 in the center, we'll have 1 here on the left, 1 on the right. So that's 3, and then the 4th one, which is the floor. Something like that. So how do we want to start actually? Maybe we'll start with the middle one. After all. So let's do background cliffs. I'm gonna do a quick mesh. And we can basically... we can just copy that transform there and move it over to it. That's probably fine. We'll take that. And we'll include some surroundings. Maybe like a couple hundred. That's not enough. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. It's kind of a stupid placement after all, actually. So let's just move it forward this way, and then we'll have maybe 250. Let's do 300. I'm gonna want to see how this actually looks. So 300 is probably better. Something like that, and we'll edit that in Blender. And this one is of type cliff 1, so it's the first cliff in the depot level that I've actually based this on. So we go here, let's add on cavity rendering and random colors, which basically gives us a blue and yellow color scheme here. So here's the object. We're gonna want to replace this with basically with this, but I can't just take, or I can, but I don't want to take all of this geometry that I have here, because you can see that it's triangulated. You don't want that. You want the original Blender object instead. So let's make snap base active and set target to vertex, and then we're gonna append. I'm gonna append from the depot. Let's see, map depot cliffs, and it was the first one, so it's cliff 1. And here we have the same thing in scale, so I've just scaled this up quite a lot actually for this particular version. And we can quite simply actually just take this name here for the little box and assign that the name instead. Now we have the correct colors and everything. So now we need to scale it and rotate it so it aligns with this guy. That's easy enough to do. We take some vertex and we snap it to that one. And then if we set active element to be the transform origin, we can rotate it along that thing. And scale it until it matches. I'm just doing this by eye because the original placement of that thing was done by eye, but you can see the amount of Z fighting there tells us that, yeah, we're pretty close actually to what we had. So let's finish that editing. That's good. And oh, that's not good. Yeah, okay, so what happened here is that I had forgotten to no, that's not what I wanted to do. This thing is what I want to actually reset. So let's set that back to 1. There we go. And then we set the transform. There we go. Now they are overlapping. Yeah, you don't really want to scale Blender Sync objects here in the editor if you can avoid it. I mean, it is supported, but it makes everything confusing if you do that. And let's assign the same gray material to that one, at least for the time being. So there we go. And now, of course, now that this is a Blender Sync object, we can edit this directly. And so, for example, I want to probably simplify this thing a lot, but I also want to close this hole here at the top as a very first thing, so we get rid of like this thing here, for example. You see the sun sort of shining through the hole and there not being shadows there, and that's annoying. So finish editing, and now we have the hole fixed. And we're gonna make some more changes to it. It's gonna look quite different actually by the time we're finished with it. That would be that. Then we can do, let's do this side first, because this side just completely breaks this tunnel here. So here we have a cliff of type cliff 22. That's cool. Let's add an object for it. And we're gonna do at least 300, because this thing is actually really large. I'm gonna want to do basically all of this side with just one. You can see here that I have this huge cliff here, which is scaled up to like 3.2, and then I have this smaller one as well, just to kind of finish off the silhouette. Like this is basically where the player is gonna be looking, and we can see that it has a pretty nice kind of like silhouette going here on the top side, especially if you consider that we'll add this big plane there in the back. So the thing that is missing, of course, is this bottom side. We just have a hole here we're gonna need to fill. But one thing at a time. I don't think we have quite enough of, or maybe we do. Let's add a little bit more surroundings there. 320. That should be good. And then we edit that in Blender. Let's do face orientation, turn that on. I'm gonna do active vertex and active element, at least for the time being. And then we have, was it 22? We have 22 and we have 16. I'm just gonna write those on a small piece of paper here, or a post-it note. 22 and 16, those are the types, the cliff types. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my previously designed cliff meshes. 22 is one, and I am bringing them into this level. So let's select some vertex here that we can match up to the big one, like that one, for example, and just snap it there. And then we scale it. That's pretty good. That's the main one. And then we have 16 was the other one. So let's take that name. That's the small little box. I'm gonna make that be the Blender target. Then we take append and we do 16. We have this mesh here, which we're gonna have to make some changes to. At least we're gonna have to rotate it. Let's select something. What do we select? Let's select like that one over there. We snap it to that one, and then we rotate it like so, and we scale it up. It almost matches. It doesn't quite match, which is of course the reason for that is because I'm doing these things kind of by eye. But that matches well enough. So now we can take these two and we can merge them and finish editing. And we go back here, and now we can get rid of these other meshes here that I had just as a template essentially. And now that we have this in Blender Basis Sync form, now we can go in and remove all of these annoying pieces of geometry that intersect the tunnel there, right? So let's assign that material. And what we can see here actually is, if you we take this guy and we make it hidden. We have this tunnel here, and the tunnel, of course, has its geometry oriented in such a way that you can see it from the inside. We could use a double-sided material if you wanted to, but I haven't done that. So from the outside you can't actually see the tunnel, and that means that actually like you don't get shadows from the roof or anything like that. Because of that, I use this crude sort of cover or whatever you want to call this, like around the tunnel, to actually make sure that that we get the shadows properly set here. Like there's no sunlight inside of the tunnel. Same thing goes here for this other thing. So if we take this away like that, just move it off to the side, you can see here confusingly, like at some point, we have some weird stuff here because terrain is changing. But anyway, at some point here you get like sunlight inside of the tunnel. So let's move that thing back, and now we kind of blocks that off while still using relatively little geometry. So that is what we can actually see poking through the top here. It doesn't necessarily really matter that it does it, because the player will never be able to put the camera here. The player can drive to around here and then maybe move their camera like this or something like that. So we're gonna have to fix up these holes here, but I don't think they can see this. However, I think we're gonna fix this anyway. Kind of feels a little dirty to have that poking through there. Anyway, with those explanations out of the way, we can go into Blender, have a little sip of coffee, and immediately we can see here that okay, we have a whole bunch of stuff here that we don't want. So we have all of this. Like what is that? I don't exactly know. We have some rocks here. This one actually looks kind of neat, but this one doesn't. Let's move that off into another object, and I'm just gonna, rather than deleting stuff, I'm just gonna move them off into a collection here that I have set to not be visible, so we can bring them back later if we want to. And here's actually okay. Here's this rock thing that I was talking about, which we can keep there for sure, but we're gonna have to modify this so we don't poke through the roof of the tunnel. Can't have that happening. Lots of intersecting geometry here. That's kind of annoying, but let's see what we can do about it. So that's going to be that face. What is that? Right, okay, so that's this side. And I don't know if we actually need this, but let's move it up so that it's just out of the tunnel for now and see where that takes us. Okay, that like introduces a hole here. That's fine, we can fix it. Like if you think about it just from a sort of like a logical perspective, that kind of means that the cliff as we have it set up, like it doesn't fit the tunnel. The tunnel doesn't fit inside of the cliff, and that's obviously not a good thing. Yeah, we don't need that face at all. We also don't need that face. Let's just take those away completely. I'm gonna merge some geometry here. Take all of that away. Let's move into the tunnel again. Okay, we have one more. What is that? Okay, that's like the roof of that. So let's bring that vertex upwards quite a bit. That might just fix it. There we go. Now we have it fixed. So no more weird stuff. Oh, there's one. What is that? So that's that piece. And here we can see we actually have quite a lot of geometry here that we don't need. We'll never be able to see it because we're only seeing things from over here, and of course here we're just like cutting off this cliff because we didn't include enough of the surroundings. But I can just get rid of all of this All of that stuff can go, and that one, and that one. And perhaps these ones as well, but I'm gonna leave them for now. I'm just gonna merge that there. This one we can get rid of. Merge that there. And let's merge that one there. Something like that, and then we can bring these things up. There's no point in having them go down. Oh, that's a little strange. Strange rotation there. Oh, we have the, let's go to median point. Still a strange rotation. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Okay, all right, I see what's happening here. It like it needs to triangulate that face that's next to it somehow. That's right. Like it is worth keeping in mind when you're working with quads in Blender like this, that you're actually not working with quads, you're working with triangles. And so here, for example, we have a quad. Now that quad is obviously triangulated in such a way that we have an edge along this side. Like here, for example, we could triangulate it another way. And now there you can see sort of like the difference between triangulating it one way or the other. So if you triangulate it like this, it doesn't change really at all, just the lighting changes a little bit. But if you triangulate it this way, it just completely changes and becomes sort of like a pit when it used to have a ridge and all of that. So even though you're kind of working with quads in Blender, they're really not quads when it comes to the graphics API, even in Blender. Because no graphics API, at least no modern or relatively modern one, works with quads. They all want triangles and nothing else. So something like that, okay. We still have quite a lot of stuff going on here inside of the mountain. Like we could maybe get rid of this rock here. Not sure we really need it for anything. Let's see, let's do an update and keep editing. And we go to the level editor and we can see here. Okay, so here's the rock. You can almost like not see it at all. It's just that piece over there. And at the same time, it kind of looks okay. Oh, let's maybe keep it. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix these things up, and I think I'm gonna do it from like not with this mesh here, but actually extrude this mesh a little bit further. We just need to like fill this hole here. You can see this kind of nasty looking, very straight piece of terrain. So we just have to like, you know, put something on top of those. Oh, I did an unnecessarily edit operation there. We were still editing this one, but it doesn't matter. The end result is the same. Just do like maybe add some faces here, just to have something at the end of this. Yeah, we need to continue them downwards, but let's not go there yet. So here, oh, that's not what I want. I want to go to edit mode first. There we go. So here we have now actually made a hole, which is not what I wanted to do. And that looks fine. And there's just like way too much detail here. Detail that we really will never see. Like those things we can just get rid of completely, immediately. Yeah, we have some weird split normal data there that we don't want. This sort of thing. again, we need to consider that we can only see, or the player can only see this mesh from about this angle. Kind of like this is the maximum kind of view space that we have. So we want to get rid of basically all of these rear faces here, back faces, whatever. Like all of this stuff can go. However, I'm gonna again probably keep them alive in different objects, so that we can bring them back if we suddenly find ourselves in the need of more rocks and stuff like this. What about these small things here? Bet we can get rid of at least some of this stuff. Some of these things. But yeah, I think we're gonna come back to that for now. Or later, rather. It's good enough for now. Here's some faces that will never be seen by anyone, so let's get rid of those. Like so. That one as well. Of course, the more you actually like get rid of stuff here, the less useful this becomes as a generic mesh, and it becomes a very sort of ad hoc mesh only for this place. But I think this is like large and confusing enough already that it probably will only fit in this one place. And if that is the case, then yeah, you can just go and like remove all of these things here. That one as well, probably. Let's actually keep that for just to be safe. Those we can get rid of. And we can merge that. Can probably actually merge that as well. Something like that. It doesn't make sense to like micro optimize these mods, these meshes here at this point, but it makes a little bit of sense to like remove some obviously stupid things. Like this, for example. That's kind of obviously stupid. Like you can almost not even see it here. So let's just get rid of that. Have some more back faces here. This is actually a very busy mesh. Just from the beginning. I remember making this and going like, this is kind of busy, but when you actually encounter it, you get to drive up right next to it. In which case, like the level of detail is kind of okay, but when it's just like this, it's in the background. You don't want enough. You don't want too much detail. So you can get rid of some of this stuff here. Just maybe angle that a little differently. Yeah, I've sort of for these cliffs, I've taken to doing modeling like this, where I have just like lots and lots of geometry intersecting geometry is fine. That's not normally how I model things that are well, that's not normally how I model things, quite simply. You know, if you have like buildings and vehicles and man-made things, sometimes I have a little bit of intersecting geometry, but not like this. But with these cliffs, it tends to be a very fast way to get this art style that I'm going for. Yeah, it's a little busy still. What happens if we get rid of that? That looks kind of okay. And we're gonna have to think about here, like, what do we actually want to happen below this mesh? Like, this is actually now kind of made to be placed where the ground is at this level. That's why we have all of these like horizontal slabs here. The ground won't actually be here. It will be somewhere down here, actually. So how do we do that? What do we do about this? shapes here now. Maybe something like that, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I think we're gonna want to do something like this for a few of these, but not all of them. So let's see, how does this piece of geometry work? We want to basically go all the way there, don't we? Here's something funky. What's that? Yeah, here's like an extra face. That's not good. Let's not have any extra faces. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, maybe actually just have that go almost straight down. I'm gonna move that thing further down as well. And then maybe have that one as well. And do the same thing. Let's move it down, bring that edge loop down. Get rid of the surroundings for a little bit here, so we can see what we're doing. Something like this. And then I'm thinking that I will actually take this main length of cliff here and actually bring it down quite a lot, like so. At some point this is gonna hit the floor, which we will also have to model somehow. And here I don't even know what we consider to be the main surface. This is so busy in many ways. I don't know, let's just bring it down like that maybe and see how that works. Yeah, that doesn't really, I don't think I actually don't like that at all. Let's just get rid of it. And here we have like an enormous face. This, at least cut it up into 3 parts so that we can add a little bit of interest to it. Interesting shapes going on here. Something like that, and and yeah, I think we're gonna take those and move them away as well. That's not how we do it. That's how we do it. And we don't need that face. That face can go. Do we need that face? We kind of do. Let's keep it around for now. I'm gonna extrude this guy. Probably extrude it somehow into this, right? It's kind of the pretty freeing way of modeling like this. You just like drag things off. And that's fine. Don't really care about it all that much. Then later you go in and see, do we have a lot of like, well, things like this. You have like 2 faces here that are almost like sitting on top of each other. That's not necessarily a very good idea. Yeah, so then we can just do this. We can drag that inwards a little bit more. And now we can get rid of that completely. Like now that face is not that one, the other one, that one. The face is not even visible from the outside. So let's get rid of it. And we can trim this a little bit as well. Yep, there's another one that we can get rid of. What about that one? That one as well. That one is visible. So let's get rid of those 2. What about that one? Also not visible. Yeah, none of those are visible actually. Something like that. And then sometimes when you export it from Blender, it looks weird. And then it turns out that the exporter has triangulated one of those quads that we talked about previously. It has triangulated it the other way as part of the export. And then you need to go in and not have things as quads like this, but like you add another face here. So you have two triangles and kind of force it to be triangulated in a certain way. If you kind of depend on that for it to look good. I do that quite a lot actually with these cliffs. Okay, so now if we take a look here and like see the difference when I actually update this guy in Blender. Let's do update and keep editing, and boom, here we have more stuff. You can see more of the cliff coming in and looking fine. We can still see that there's a hole there. We're gonna need to do something with this mesh here as well. Probably remove some of the detail there. It's like way too detailed to be that far away, but that's fine. Gonna fix that up as well. A little bit more coffee, and off we go. So what do we have here as the sort of main piece of geometry? Maybe it's like this one and that one. I think it might be. I think we're gonna be good citizens and actually close that properly. So what do we have here then? Right, okay, this actually ends here. So let's get rid of all of this. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah, you can't see that at all. Actually, I'm just gonna get rid of that completely. And we can delete that face, and we can bring this in. And these things now become kind of like, they look like kind of a strange shelf or something. We don't really want any of that, so let's just move those off to another object again and hide it for now. Now we can see that, okay, we have this kind of divide here. What do we do with that? We can even merge it maybe. There we go. Does that look all right? Not quite. Let's see if we can do something about that. From over here, it's starting to look okay. I'm gonna get rid of that middle one there. And here we can actually probably just merge those at center, why not? We can get rid of probably those, and then we can merge these. Let's get rid of that completely. That merges up nicely that way. Yeah, okay. And here we have like way too much detail, considering that this is like off to the distance, the very corner of the player's view. Let's not waste any actual geometry here. This. Yeah, that looks all right. Bet we can get rid of those. Probably like, let's see, let's merge those and then merge those. And we can probably actually get rid of all of that as well. No one's gonna see it. And I'm gonna get rid of that, I think. Actually, let's move that off to an object. It's kind of an interesting small little detail. Might look cool later. Same thing with that. Let's move that away as well. And we don't need these end pieces. And now that we have this, all of this cleaned up, we can just take all of this, not that, but that, and bring it down like so. Now we should be able to like just bring these into each other. There's actually a small hole there. I don't think anyone will notice. It can easily be closed just like that. And the idea here is that the player will never move the camera. The player might be able to see, you know, something like this. Not quite this, but still. The player will never be able to move the camera in such a way that they will see that this piece actually ends here. That's the idea. So we can quite simply have it end quite abruptly. Let's do an update and keep editing. And we can see, as long as the player's camera is kept here and not like on top of this thing, we don't need to really worry about the fact that cliff face ends there. Let's add some more fog. It's actually quite foggy down here. It's way more foggy down there than it's up here. You can kind of see that we have a little bit of height-based fog going on here. So there's actually quite a lot of fog down here when we go further down the canyon. That's something that we might have to tweak a little bit. Seems a little heavy to me, but we'll see. Anyway, this part here is starting to look pretty nice, especially if we put some like trees and stuff here. Then eventually, when we actually start decorating this thing, kind of looks like a pretty nice backdrop. I think that's gonna work fine. Alright, I'm gonna go get a little bit of water because I've been once again yapping so much. So back in a jiffy. Alrighty then. So, what is next? I think the next thing is to do a similar kind of like first pass tweaking to this other side. So I have to take the fog away again for just a little bit. Okay, maybe we'll wanna tweak this before we do that. Want to tweak this just that this thing here is poking through. That kind of annoys me a little bit. So let's do that still. So it's basically just this face here. Let's see, what do we have? Basically that one and that one. And if we bring those up high enough, they should essentially fix it for us. And they do. Yep. Yep. That's good. So finish that editing. And there we have, now we have the whole now we have the whole tunnel fitting here inside of this mountain. Actually, before we go to the other side, now that I think about it, what if we actually fixed up this piece here? This looks kind of nasty. Let's fix that up before we go to the other side. So I was thinking we would do it through this mesh here. I'm gonna want to have a little bit more of the surroundings though, so we can properly see what's going on here. All right, that's better. So this lower part here. Oh, we're still not actually seeing it. Okay, yeah. I was thinking, why is it getting cut off there? But we still don't actually have enough of the surroundings. Let's expand that ever so slightly more. Still like 175 or something. And now we can see. Okay, so now we have the full view here of what we actually have. So this mesh will need to go kind of downwards a little bit still. Maybe it's actually this mesh that needs to have this, you know, cover this piece here. I think that actually makes sense, and I have a plan for that actually. So if we go to this mesh, before we do that, let's have a look here at the depot. Depot is right there. I think this, no, not that mesh, that mesh. This mesh could maybe fit just as an end piece here. We do a little bit of fiddling with it. We should, I think, be able to fit it here quite nicely. Scale it up a little bit, rotate it a little bit. Something like this. Yeah, pokes through a little bit too much, but we can fix that. Something like that maybe. And then yeah, we don't want this stuff inside the tunnel, obviously. Yeah, that's gonna work actually really quite well. So that is cliff 21. And we will be adding that to, I think maybe this mesh after all is the correct one to use it with. Not the top one. The top one we're just going to be tweaking ever so slightly so that it fits kind of with this thing here. So cliff 21, append cliff 21. Let's take that one and snap it there, rotate it like so, and then scale it up like so. All right. So let's merge it with this one. Merge. And I can immediately see here that we're gonna have some issues if we do this, so let's move all of this stuff off to all of that. Let's move that off to another object, which we hide, and then we cut probably like all of this off. Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay, so here's the question now. If we use this mesh only in this one place, it's gonna work perfectly because we have this other piece of cliff that comes down here. But if we ever want to use this piece of mesh without that top side, then it doesn't really make sense that this thing doesn't have a backside at all, right? Now the question is here, will we ever do that? will we ever be using this in such a way? And I've been wrong before. I've thought that, nah, that's fine. I'm not going to use it in any other place. And then later on, it's turned out that I've actually found it that it fits perfectly in some other place. You know, sometimes without any issues, and sometimes it would have fit if I had more of those faces originally. So, decisions. Right. Let's not do it like that. Let's maybe extrude that like so. Then add the final face there. So yeah, I don't actually know how to know what to do about that right now. I'm gonna have to figure something out. I'm just gonna get rid of those faces there completely. It's like those two, right? Yes. Bye bye. And what about that guy? Who are you? Another unnecessary face. Yeah, maybe this is fine. We actually don't even want any of this stuff here. Let's finish editing and let's see what we have. So we have this. Is that the one? Yep, that's the one. Now we don't have any of those extra faces there. We do have some weird stuff here though. And that's actually not this bottom mesh, that's the top one. Oh, here's some additional stuff that we want to get rid of. I don't know what that is actually. Some rock or something that got left in. And here we actually have some. What is that? Can we just get rid of that completely? We can't quite do that, no. But what we can do is that and then that. That looks alright. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix those. So let's do that maybe right now. Oh, here's some crap. This should be in the same mesh as those other top ones. Yep. So lots of things to fix here all of a sudden. These are probably things that have been here for a while, I just haven't noticed them. So maybe we take not too much stuff here. Let's hide everything else for the time being, and we'll take those three. Nope, those three. Come on, there we go. Just move them in a little bit. There we go. And I don't think we want quite this much detail here in this. That's alright. And then these guys. So what is this? This is just strange. Can we get rid of that completely? Yeah. Okay. There we go. Something like that, maybe, and then what do we have here then? Is that actually, yeah, that's actually attached to that thing. So I'm just gonna pull that down so that it kind of intersects with that. And I think that'll be that. And then this is strange. Let's tweak this a little bit. We don't need that face, or that edge, rather. So we have this, and then maybe. Yeah, actually that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. Howdy, Marcus. Welcome back. Making good progress. Yeah, I'm making progress. Things could always be faster, you know. But yeah, making progress, absolutely. This level is turning out to be quite a thing to actually design. It's this pretty huge canyon system thingy here with just lots and lots of nooks and crannies to create geometry for. I feel these are things that, like, as you get better at level design, you kind of identify some of these things as like, oh, that's gonna be just an absolute nightmare to create, right? When you're not as experienced, you're kind of naive in a way that, well, sometimes makes you create these things that you otherwise wouldn't, because you would go like, no, that would be way too difficult to actually make. In this case, I feel like I chose an idea that turned out to be perhaps more complex than I thought it would. But now that we are doing it, yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. But it does take more time than I thought it would, for sure. But yeah, we're making progress, absolutely. Something like that. I don't exactly know what happened to this thing. I clearly removed some geometry there that I was perhaps not supposed to do, so just extended that slightly. I think that's probably fine. Let's see how that terrain actually kind of fits on top of this. Like you can see here as well. I think I have probably modified some of the terrain down here that has kind of eaten away at this terrain up here. Let's fix this as well. Kind of melt it away a little bit. Like this. Yeah, here as well. I wonder... Oh, I probably actually... Yeah, I think I might have actually gotten rid of some piece of geometry here that I should not have, which would have actually covered up these things here, now that I think of it. It's not necessarily the end of the world, though. We we can add them back in. But it's kind of starting to look like that has been the case here. Maybe we'll actually want to raise that up even slightly. And that one as well, just move that in, and then maybe upwards. And that in even further, something like that. I think I'm gonna bring this up as well. Yeah, I kind of think this looks more natural, that you have this sort of like, almost like a piece came off the edge of this cliff here, and you have sort of like the same silhouette here on both sides of this bridge. That looks better. Yeah, then we're gonna have to, sooner or later, we're gonna have to do something about this floor here. The bottom of this ravine. That's gonna be interesting as well. What do we do about it? I don't actually know. Yeah, like my way of modeling cliffs has changed quite drastically during the project. I used to kind of look at a whole lot of references, and I still occasionally do when I want something to look in a very particular way, but like most of the time now I'm just going like, right, I kind of know sort of what I want it to look like, and I'm just gonna try to make it happen. And I think I kind of found my art style that I'm going for here with regards to the cliffs. Of course, I have a lot of cliffs. Cliffs are essentially like they fill up all the negative space in these levels, basically, because this game is sort of taking place in this in these natural environments that have a lot of these like really kind of dramatic shapes, and of course there are levels that I haven't even shown you yet that are at about sit at about this level of completion, and have some even crazier cliffs and cliff formations, which I'm sure we'll get to look at relatively soon. But yeah, there are a lot of cliffs here, and I need to be somewhat efficient at actually creating this stuff. And so nowadays I tend to just kind of like go, okay, I kind of know roughly what I want. Not really gonna bother with any references, at least right now, and then just whip it together. Whether or not it looks 100% natural or not isn't necessarily all that important. As long as it looks like it fits with the art style, that's the most important thing. Right. Okay. yeah, we can see some small gaps here that we wanna fill out, because the player can definitely see these. They just need to park their like mother vehicle here and then swing the camera this way, and they can definitely see this. So we're gonna want to make sure that this seam here between these two is also, you know, good enough. So maybe do something like this and fill it in a bit further still. Whoa, what did I do there? That was a strange. That was a strange. And I do wonder if that is kind of too much. No. No. Oh no! Ah. Oh boy. You crash log, what happened? Access violation. Yeah. Hope you saved. Yeah, thanks. I didn't save, but my system saves. So, so every time you send data back and forth between Blender and the level editor, it saves it. And so, yeah, you can see here we are. I did that change here. And then I did these things here, right? Something like, whoop, not that. Let's see if we can make it get it crashing in the exact same way again while doing the exact same thing. Come on. Why can't you figure out the path, the shortest path there? Thank you. Right, so I mean, I can save here. You can see the file path here is like my app data local temp blender sync target.blend. It is the path that it uses for all of these things. So you can save it, and you can even, it's just a normal Blender file that we're dealing with here. But you kind of don't typically want to save it. Yeah, okay, so that's been sitting on top of a hole like that. We can just fill that in. And yeah, that is just like that's how Blender Sync works. This doesn't look very natural though. That we have sort of like a very straight kind of edge like this, and at the very end we have this sort of like bulge, right? That doesn't look natural. So let's do something with this actually now before we move on to the next piece. I think I'm gonna actually want to move this quite a bit in that direction, and then we're gonna take this as well. Gonna move. How do we want to do this actually? Something like that, maybe. Maybe we just want to merge that into that piece there. Kind of make this transition between these two background meshes like a little less noticeable. It's quite noticeable now. Something like that maybe, and then just bring that over there. Yeah, Blender doesn't crash very often. I think I've seen that error crash dialogue thingy just a few times in my life. Doesn't feel like Blender crashes very often, but it happens. Okay, so here we have actually an opportunity to do something a little interesting with that other mesh there to make that transition a little bit more seamless. Oh, that we want to fix that, by the way, before we do anything else. Just bring this down a bit further. There we go. Yeah, I think that's fine. So here, if we have this, and here we have sort of like this, this I don't know what to call this in English, but like crevice sort of thing, and then we have this other, which is like kind of like the opposite of it. But then we have this kind of like crack or whatever this is called. I don't know these terms. What I'm thinking we can do here is we're gonna subdivide this here. I'm gonna bring it over there. I'll just join those two together is what I want to do, and then we'll do another one, and then move it up to about here. Let me join those two. Now my thinking here may prove to be wrong, but let's see. My thinking is that if we merge all of this here, we can essentially faces is what I want. We can essentially kind of bring this in, and thusly, and then we won't need to have that vertex there as well. And we bring that in, thusly, and then do something like that. And then maybe this is easier to, make actually match this thing, right? And now that I think of it, we can even just remove that completely. But I don't think I want to do that necessarily, because again, we might want to use this mesh, without the other one. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's get that. Oh, now I'm just nervous this thing is gonna crash. Every time I click somewhere and it doesn't seem to register, I'm like, oh, has it crashed? Of course, most of the time it's just me kind of misclicking. Okay, something like that, and then we go back to this other mesh and we fix up that this joint here, the place here where it actually meets the other mesh, and we try to make it match the underlying one. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then when we texture it and we add some imperfections there, it's going to look pretty nicely. It's going to look pretty nice. That doesn't look good though now. It's going to work pretty nicely is what I was meant to say. Yeah, this doesn't work because this thing is very much not planar currently. So I'm going to have to try to make it a bit more planar here before they meet, and then I think we're gonna have to pull this back so that we don't have that much overlapping stuff. I mean, this doesn't really matter all that much, because this is very much like a place that you need to want to have a look. You need to want to have a good look at this place to actually even see that, because it's like basically out of bounds of the level. But yeah, what is that, by the way? That's kind of a strange little thing that I think we can do without here. Bye. at this topography here, or topology, a little bit. Make it a bit more sane. Alright. So, how was this joint here? We have like 3 meshes actually joining here. I think it looks alright. Here we have if you manage to move the camera this far, you can see that there's an edge there, but we can fix that if we want to, and like no one should be able to see there, but you never know what people might do. But yeah, I think it works kind of well enough. Looks like a piece of cliff, if you ask me. Let's have a little bit of a drive through the environment. Of course, that place over there is kind of like ruining the view a little bit. I'm just gonna jump down here. I don't think you will be able to do this in the final game, but here we can actually do it. Maybe you will. I don't know. Perhaps it should be prohibited somehow. Yeah, there we have a very, very sharp corner of that bridge. That doesn't look good. We need to do something about that as well. But one thing at a time. Yeah, this is actually a very, very large piece of rock. You kind of forget how large these things are, because the tunnels and the roads are designed to be able to accommodate the mother vehicle. Yeah, they're actually very, very large. All of them. Right, so here we have now, this is the hole in the ground, which we're gonna have to fill up. But I think we have basically now enough geometry here in these cliffs to make this a believable place. There's a little bit of shelving going on there, still on that side. Right. Whip. What is that, first of all? Why is that? Why does it look like that? That's just weird. Bring that down. And into the geometry there. Right, so we have this sort of deal here with this, all of this extra detail, which we don't really need or want for that matter. And then never ended up needing those either, so let's get rid of them. Like that's a very, very much like a shelf. Let's get rid of it. Bye bye. Bring that in there. And this one as well. Another option is that we actually make this actually like a taller object. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Again, you can only see it from about here. So I think that'll be fine. So what we need to do pretty soon is add just a very basic sort of floor here. And then I'll make the floor more nice looking a little bit later. Not exactly sure what's going to be down there. Is that going to be some sort of river, or is there just going to be like a dry river bed or whatever? But something of that nature, probably. And I think before we do that, before we get to the floor, we'll do this other side. We have some stuff here as well that we don't really want, right? Coming from this object that we... Actually, yeah, there's nothing here now actually poking through the terrain, or the tunnel. Is there? I don't think there is. So it's actually quite okay. So, what do we have? We have this thing here. Okay. Yeah, my thinking here was that this would actually kind of be sort of like a dead end of this canyon. It is arguably the piece of the level that you can see better than this one, because you can kind of see into it right here. There's just not a lot of like a big old mess here with all of these things. None of it really fitting together all that well. So we're gonna have to figure all of that out and probably remove quite a lot of that stuff. But let's start by adding a quick mesh here on this side. So common quick mesh, and we'll add it here to the background cliffs layer as well. Probably about there. Include surroundings. Oh, by the way, we want to make sure that we don't have collisions enabled for... That one should have collisions enabled, yes. But not this one. We don't want collisions for any of that. And we don't want collisions for any of this other stuff on the other side either. 300. 300 is pretty good. Let's do 320. Just to be on the safe side. And Blender is empty. That's good. Edit in Blender. Let's see what we have. And cavity. I should really have a script or something to do all of this stuff that I normally do when I open up this Blender sync thingy for the first time. Maybe saved in like in a file that has all of that set for it. Yeah, maybe that would be the easiest thing to do. I don't know exactly. I don't exactly remember how Blender sync works anymore. I haven't touched it in so long. Okay, so we have two meshes here. We have one which is cliff number 4, and the other one which is cliff number 2. Okay, let's write that up or down. Four and 2. Coolio. So append. And since Blender crashed, it no longer remembers where we were, unfortunately. 4. And we actually played through this music list. We're on the last track here. Maybe we'll move to that other truck that I had going, or list that I had going. I should really make some new playlists on Epidemic Sound, but I haven't had the time so far. Alrighty though, so that's a cliff number 4, so it would be that guy. So let's again get one of the vertices and try to match it here. And that's gonna be kind of tricky now, because I bet this thing is rotated in all kinds of ways. That looks pretty good. Now let's try to scale it up. Something like that. That's pretty good. Take the Blender Sync target object, delete it, and rename that Blender Sync target. And now that is suddenly the Blender Sync target. And then we have the other one, this one, which was number 2. So we're gonna add, or append rather, cliff number 2. Let's move it somewhere there maybe, and again take one of these points, that one, snap it here, and we'll see what we get if we just scale it up. We're pretty close actually to the ones that I had. That's quite good enough. And then we merge them together and we have one object which we can start modifying. Get rid of that one, get rid of that one, and then we take this material and we add it here as well. Boom. Save. So now we have 3 quick meshes. We have the centerpiece, we have the one to the left, and we have the one to the right. Excellent. And the first thing I'm going to do here is just go in here to the one that we just added and just remove a whole bunch of things that we don't need. So we don't need any of these end pieces here. No one's ever gonna be, like, we're actually quite far from the playable area now, so no one's ever gonna see any of this stuff. And we can remove that as well. Here's some details that I guess we might want. Let's move them off to a different object and hide them for now. Remove that. We can remove probably a whole bunch of this stuff as well. Well, first of all, we can remove everything that's inside of this cliff here. All of this stuff can go away. Bye bye. Yeah, I'm not even sure I'm gonna bother with matching up these things. They can probably just look like this. at least get rid of that lowest strip there, probably more. So let's add the face orientation, or turn on the face orientation visualization here. We can see that, okay, we have a whole lot of faces here, some of which we will never see. Get rid of that, get rid of all of that. Probably also, yeah, probably also that strip and that one as well. And all of this. And all of that. All of that. And that. And these guys. Yep, all of that can go. All of this can go. Something like that, maybe. Let's merge that together there. Yeah, that's not visible to anyone. Okay, something like that. Now this is a little kind of slightly weird angle that kind of comes out of. So let's fiddle with it a little bit to get a nicer angle. Can anyone see those things? Well, ever so slightly, but not like a whole lot of them. Can at least make them smaller, like that. Something like that, and then maybe we can dissolve some of these things, can we? Not necessarily easily, but we should be able to get rid of even more of this stuff. Like, no one will be able to see that, nor that, nor that. Yeah, not that either. Just a whole lot of geometry that we can take away. Yep, even more. And more. What about that? Yeah, so this is kind of stupid. We have this face here, but it's this huge face. We can only see like a very small part of it. Let's at least merge those together so that we only have a triangle. And then what do we have here then? I think that piece will just be merged down into, or like moved down into that. And then here we can start actually dissolving these things quite easily. Oh yeah, look at this. We have all of this crap here that we don't need. Well, we could maybe bring these guys up here and make them more visible. It's at least better bang for our buck here when it comes to these pieces of geometry. Yeah, all of this will be inside of the center cliff. Yeah, we can get rid of that completely. we do actually need a face here, unless we bring that into the cliff as well. If we do something like that, then we don't need any faces there. All right. What about that? Yeah, we can actually see those. Let's leave them there at least for now. I think I'm actually going to bring these a little further forward. Like so. All right. And that one we most likely can just get rid of, because we don't need this much detail here in this place where almost no one can see it anyway. Let's leave that there. That one we can get rid of. Yeah, we can do an additional cleanup pass on this later if we need to. No need to stress about it now. What's that? Oh, that's actually part of the... Yeah, okay. So much crap here. Let's get rid of all of this. No one can see those faces. What about that face? Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Can move this a little further. There we go. Simplify this a little bit. Starting to look okay, I guess. There we go. So now I think we should probably turn our attention to the piece in the middle. This thing here, which I think is probably actually the wrong shape. Like, it is the one I selected as a base here because I figured it has some of the kind of features I want, but especially like this silhouette here. It's almost like a box here. I don't like that. I don't want that to be the silhouette that we see when we are sort of looking down at the thing from over here. It's just very boring and uninteresting there. So we're definitely gonna want to make it somehow more irregular, pointy or whatever. Not exactly sure how though. That remains to be seen. Alrighty then. Yeah, we're gaining a few of our viewers back here after it was kind of quiet for a bit, and that's completely understandable, as this is kind of like in the middle of the workday for lots of people, including myself. I will be going for about 1 more hour, after which I will have to go and take care of some family business. But there'll be 1 more hour of chill level design this afternoon, Finland time. And you're welcome to stick around. And if you find this interesting, by all means, do subscribe. You'll see that we don't actually have that many subscribers on the channel currently. That is because I actually just started this new live stream channel. You are free to join both this channel and the main channel if you find well, where you will find a whole lot more both live streams and videos, but all of the live streams will take place on this channel in the future. So if you want more of this stuff, then the live stream channel is the one you want. Alright, enough of that. How do we want to mess with this now? So there's certain things that I like here. I kind of like the kind of the flow of these lower pieces here, and then I don't like the top. So we could do something, try to make something kind of drastic here at the top. Let's get rid of that to begin with. So move it to another object. Add a helpers collection here, which we hide, and then we move that into the helpers collection so that it goes away. And that means that we actually get some holes here. You can see that this top piece here is probably its own piece. Yeah, it is. How is this actually constructed? I'm thinking here that we'll want to morph this a little bit. Oh, actually, I don't think that's what I wanted. I wanted to do that, and then I wanted to do that. Just make it simpler. Quite simply. So probably sort of like have it pretty low here on this side, and then have it kind of rise, and then have the peak of the thing be somewhere here, maybe where this guy is. How would that look? I think that would look kind of interesting. That way you could sort of see the peak from up over here. We don't want this very flat silhouette here to happen. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And yeah, this is good here that this actually blocks off. So this will need to remain this kind of steep and tall, so that we're blocking off the end of the level here. But then on this side, we can let it be a bit more flat perhaps, or have like a slope rather than these drops here. I think that's kind of something that we might want to try. And then you can sort of see the plane out from over there, as well as just above this rock here. I think that should work quite nicely. Not sure how to achieve that though, but that would be my plan. I think we're actually gonna be just quite simply removing that thing. Bye bye. At least for now. And then maybe take all of those and get rid of them as well. What do we have here then? What is that? That's something that is very tall, unnecessarily so. Get rid of those pieces. And kind of bring that down and angle it a little bit. Yeah, I think those things will probably be buried by this if I continue this plan. That's fine, we can bury them. That's absolutely fine. Then we have this guy here. Oh, that's a very sharp corner. Let's bring that down. We have this guy here, which I think we will take and start using as the sort of main body here. And that's a little strange. Let's actually get rid of that as well, just for now. Yeah. Something like that, maybe. Maybe. We could even maybe extrude that. Extrude that and then bring that in. Something kind of like that. And here we're gonna need to have more details. Let's bring that up a little bit. How did that happen? How did we get another? Is it actually like it adds a? No, okay, it does have a point there. Yeah, okay. It's just the original mesh has been a little wonky in places. It would seem like. I have no trouble believing that. Lots of wonky meshes here in the game. But okay, let's bring all of that down a little bit more. We are going to want to have these things come together though. Like if we have that one and we have that one, then we get rid of everything else. Should be able to merge these, and we do. We can merge them like this and like that maybe. Yeah. There's some very strange things going on. Don't do that, please. Okay. Alright, so now we have... Oh, that's not what I wanted. Now we have slightly less of these different, sometimes intersecting pieces of geometry here. I think this is going to be much easier to reason about. Take away that, take away that. Ah, come on, I keep pressing... Keep enabling that... collection with those hidden pieces when I'm not meaning to. Cool, okay. So then we have this, we kind of continue this way. We want to continue upwards, not downwards. That thusly. Can have a triangle there, that's fine. Something like that. Maybe. And then with this, I think we need to... Yeah, we need to continue with this a little bit further still. So let's do that. Let's take... I'm gonna bring those together. And I wonder if we need that actually. Let's get rid of it for now at least. We can bring it back later if we need to. Trying very much here to not like produce more geometry than we really need, because this is still only sort of a background piece here. So just start bringing this up and then seeing where we need to actually modify it. Or actually, what could be kind of interesting is to not actually do that, but keep that relatively flat, have it sort of rising in a slope like this, like we currently do, but maybe even a steeper slope. And then instead do the sort of peak that I was talking about, using another piece which is not actually connected to that. I think that tends to look more natural when it comes to cliffs like this. So let's see about that in just a second. Right, so this looks weird. I think we need to add a face there to kind of make it sort of have an edge that it can join with there. This now looks very, very kind of grid-like and regular, though. We don't want that. So what we can try here is to do a little bit of randomization and just see where that gives us, where that takes us. I think we have to probably come back to this later when we have the rest of the silhouette in place, but this looks a little too regular, I think. One thing that we could do is we could have a kind of a big old crack here in this. That might actually look kind of nice. So let's do that. Let's have a big old crack. Where do we want to put it? Maybe there. Just use the knife and cut an edge there, and then we'll get rid of those faces. We'll have that there, and we have that there, and then we'll do some more interesting things with this while we're at it. So let's cut it some more. Maybe from there. Something like that. Get rid of those. Get rid of that. I'm kind of winging it here. This might not work, but we'll see. Last. Oh, that actually probably needs to be merged with one that's sitting on this one. Let's just do that. Bring those together. Like so. Starting to look nicer. And we can make it a bit more worn by not having these sharp corners be there still. Just bring that in like so. Yep, it takes a little bit of fiddling to get this right, but I think we might be onto something. Trying to achieve something here, but I don't know if it will work out. Let's see. I was thinking that crack looked a little too artificial when it was like joined here with all of these other faces. So I'm trying to make it a little less regular by actually moving this off to the side. Something like this, right? And then maybe we can even just use knife here and cut a path here kind of crookedly through this and sort of pull these things slightly. Something like that. Okay, so we're gonna want to have that peak that I thought of. Let's move this back to the editor. We can have a look at what we have. Yeah, still I think this looks a little too grid-like, but we'll fix that. But I want this to be sort of like a top here, and so we can even just take one of the peaks that we have in one of these other ones, maybe like that one. Yeah, I think we'll take this peak here and then we'll put it on its side slightly. So that is number 17. Let's bring that into the mix. See what that gives us. Append and number 17. Move it up. We'll take that guy. Everything else, move off to the side, please. Something like this, maybe. Scale it. Make it a bit wider. And then fit it here into this. If we can. I'm gonna do median point for now. I think that's easier. Right, so this looks very artificial now that it just like, you know, directly goes into this. So we're gonna have to add some more geometry there to make it kind of sit with this. But we'll do one thing at a time. Let's add it here and let's see, just like look at the silhouette from up here. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that's starting to look kind of interesting. Yeah. But like this, where it just hits that flat piece, it looks really unnatural. That's not really how cliffs work and behave. So let's take some of these other things that we took away previously. That's just the top. We don't really want that. That's just that. We don't really want that either. But here we probably have something that we can use. What if we tried with that thing? Would that work? Let's move that out and hide the rest. We can probably get rid of that. Probably get rid of even more. One thing at a time. remember, we're not really going for high detail geometry here. We're going for things that look nice at a distance, especially when it comes to silhouettes. And just like a sense of being something that, you know, gives you the sense of scale, essentially. Right? We could basically take that backside away, but I think I'm gonna leave it there just so that, again, it makes this whole mesh a little more useful than being useful only in this very specific case. What is this? This is like, yeah, it's that thing. Let's move it down so that it just goes on the ground there. I think this will work with a little bit more up. With a little bit more work, we can make this work. So maybe let's merge it with that. Then we can take a look at this guy. Yeah, I think that works, but this still looks kind of strange, so we're gonna add one of those flat pieces there, I think. Let's take maybe that one. That looks like a good candidate. It has this sort of weird apron on it, which we can take away. Yep. Scale it maybe upwards a little bit. Move it down. Yeah, that's not really what I had in mind. Let's rotate it this way and move it that way. Yeah, that looks better. That kind of breaks up the silhouette of those really large shapes there a little bit. Just like that. Maybe we'll have these standing at slightly different angles. I think that makes sense. That probably will make it look better. Bring that forward a little bit, just make it less box-like if we can. Now we're introducing some very wonky geometry here to the system. Let's not do that. Yeah, that's not planar at all. Yo. Which is typically gonna result in some less than stellar lighting. Although maybe it can't be really noticed at this distance, I don't know. This is maybe a little too round, but what if we actually just took these guys and merged them up like this? Does that look better? I think it might. Let me just push that in. Right, so how do we want this? How do we want these sharp and smooth edges to work here? I kind of want these to be sharp, but I don't necessarily want these vertical lines to be sharp. Very much wants to be sharp though. Okay. I don't think that necessarily matters all that much. It's probably quite okay as it is. Anyway, that all of a sudden that looks very, very different from what it originally was, which is of course the point here. Now we wanna make sure this mesh actually kind of works with the center mesh, perhaps a little bit better than it currently does. Let's take these guys here, which were just kind of haphazardly placed. Maybe move them there. That probably works better. That guy could be rotated ever so slightly more. Something like that. Yeah, this is a weird construction here. Let's change that. Have everything here on top of the thing. Go away. Just move that in there. Yeah, that looks better. Now the question is, do we want to do something fun with this piece here? I think we might want to do that. Just continue the crack this way and then just like kind of shave off a big piece off the cliff there. I think that's what we want to do. I also want to put in like a crack here, just a smaller one. Like that. That looks all right. And then I want to do something a little fun with this. Let's do that, right? And then we take gonna need a little bit more space if we want to do this actually. Can't be helped. So move that up like so, and then we do that. Now we can just cut away this piece all the way to here. That, right? Oh, and we can immediately see. Check under the hood here, and we can see some stuff that we don't want. How fortunate. And let's get back some of our texture space here by just making these as small as possible. We're going to have to texture this eventually, and at that point you really want to get rid of all of these large faces here that no one can see anyway, such as that one, or probably that one. That one we can fold to a triangle at least. Same thing with that one. Okay, so now we take that edge and we bring it down. Break it down. Oh, the chat was apparently disconnected from YouTube at some point. I didn't even recognize or realize. Hopefully none of your messages were lost, but then again, it's been kind of a slow stream, chat-wise today. which is fine. It was basically what I was prepared for, because it's in the middle of the day for me, so it's probably like maybe morning for some of you guys or something. So it's perfectly understandable. Sometimes that is just how these things go. You kind of need to stream when you have time. And today was one such stream where I kind of just needed to do a little bit of work. Figured that maybe some of you will tune in. And some of you did, and that was nice. I don't expect like a huge crowd today. Right. Something like that. So now we have like almost like a, you know, like a layer of the rock that's kind of cracked and fallen off or whatever, fallen down into the canyon there. Save that. What do we have? What does that look like? Yep. I think that's gonna work. Isn't that nicer than that completely flat box that we had there in the beginning? I think it is. Some of these features of it are still a little boxy, of course, but yeah, some of that is going to be just fine. Doesn't really matter. I realize here now that this cliff face is here almost vertical. That doesn't look very good. Should do something about that. It's almost vertical here as well, but it's perhaps not as easily recognizable. But if you're standing here and looking at it, this is almost just like a wall. That doesn't look very good. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Yeah, so we're still missing the ground and probably a little bit of cleanup here on this side. This is kind of poking out here from at a weird angle. Let's see if we can rotate it a little bit and make it look a little nicer that way. So if we just quite simply take this entire thing, rotate it, move it closer, kind of reinforce the idea that this piece was actually part of the cliff originally, but it has kind of broken off into its own piece. Like that, right? I think that might make sense. That might look nicer. Perhaps, I don't know. Gonna have to continue it a bit further down though. Oh, I can't see anything. I have to turn off some of the surroundings here for this. Something like that, maybe. That is not visible at all. What about that guy? Well, it kind of is. It could be. Let's leave it for now. I think that's better. Yep. And of course, we need to keep the scale in mind here, so that's a pretty big cliff right there, right? That's a person standing on the cliff. It's actually like completely enormous. And that's the canyon. If this was a first-person game, it would look like this. Hello. Okay. What's next? Is it perhaps doing like a very basic sort of ground piece here? I think it might be, so we don't have these holes. And after that, well, I'm probably not gonna have time for that today. But after that, the sort of thing that completes this illusion here of being in a grander world would be to add that large plane, which we have in those other levels. Large flat plane, or mostly flat. It's not really flat because that way it wouldn't really be visible. Plane anyway. Yeah, we need to make it kind of visible enough that it kind of melts into these background pieces here kind of nicely. That could prove challenging, but I think it's gonna work. Scale mannequin needs to go on the 4-scale layer, like so. So background cliffs. Let's do one more quick mesh, and that's going to be the floor here. So I'm actually going to place it sort of in the middle here of this entire thing. It's going to be no physics. It's going to be actually a pretty large mesh. Something like that maybe, and then bring it down a little bit. Let's try with that and edit that in Blender. Right, so here we actually need to modify the draw distances here in Blender, because looking at something that is large enough that here we go. So clip start, let's do 0.1 and end is 4000. That's unnecessarily large. Let's do 3000. Even that is probably unnecessarily large, but it is fine. We'll manage. And right, so I'm gonna get rid of that completely. I'm gonna add in a plane. I'm gonna scale that plane. Then I'm gonna scale it some more until it covers roughly this place here that we need. Something like that, maybe. No, that needs to be. Let's go all the way there. And then it probably doesn't need to go quite that far out. And then we're going to do a subdivide. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to subdivide. I wanted to subdivide the entire thing. Yeah, we can subdivide it 10 times, and then we can do 10 times more if we need to, but we don't necessarily need to. At least not right now. And now we can start to modify this just by like moving these things basically up and down. Or something. I haven't actually really thought this through. Like the resolution is not necessarily actually quite good enough for this. Now let's do 18 cuts that way, and then we do try to get the quad size to be roughly the same. There we go. I think that's probably better. Alright. And then we just start moving things down. And just as importantly, up. I think we actually want to make this smooth. And we'll see if this is actually like enough resolution for, you know, in the end for this thing. It may be, or it may not be. It's just like a whole lot of figuring out which quads to select and then yanking them up. But you can get surprisingly far with a pretty low res thing, and then enabling smooth lighting for it. And then we're gonna at the end we're gonna just remove a whole bunch of these quads that we don't need, that are like inside of things. It's typically a good idea as well. Like here, for example, this ground here needs to be kind of high up, or then we're gonna have to move those down. But I think we're gonna do a little bit of both. We're gonna move the ground up quite a bit, and then we're gonna lift up some of those things in addition to that. All right, we're getting some viewers again. Welcome everyone, if you just joined to this laid back Friday afternoon level design thingy. Hey Jake, what's going on? Am I gonna be streaming this weekend? Let's see here. Actually, I think the kind of idea here is that this canyon would continue this way, like ravine or whatever, this way, and that would mean that the ground would continue to like sink down in that direction. So let's make it do that. And here we have probably the edge of the actual terrain, like game engine terrain. Yes, we do. I can't actually like cut away a piece of the terrain currently, or actually I can't do that at all. But I should be able to do it in such a way that I actually apply basically like no material, and then that would make a hole into the ground. There's actually some bugs with that currently that I have yet to spend any time figuring out, because I need it so very rarely. Now here it could actually kind of be useful, but I think we're just gonna make sure that the terrain is low enough that it just never becomes an issue here. It will be live tomorrow, 2 p.m. EST. That doesn't really tell me anything. Usually when you stream, it's like 9 o'clock in the evening or night. I'm guessing it's the same time as usual, right? But yeah, I could very easily convert that to like a local time. Let's see, 2 p.m. EST in Finnish time. 2 p.m. EST in Finland is 21, right? Yeah, it's 9 p.m. also known as 21. Yeah. I couldn't tell you what PM and AM is if someone held a gun to my head. Unless I had a serious thinking about it. Like, such a strange concept to me, the AMs and the PMs. Europe runs on military time, basically completely. Alrighty then. I need to remember here that we're not actually working with a height field here. We're working with a triangular mesh, so I can move these things sideways. We have the technology. So I can make things more dense where I need them to be dense, and then more sparse or completely non-existent where I don't need them. So the idea here is that this is kind of a dead end in this ravine. So it can be kind of the terrain can be quite sort of high up here, right? And here we can actually see into the thing. So we need to lift this one up kind of quite considerably. Lift that down maybe a little bit. Maybe it's actually easier to do it from the outside like this, just to kind of like lift it up a little bit how you would imagine it would be required. Yeah, I've actually been, speaking of streaming, I've actually been thinking of doing a little bit of streaming, like game streaming myself. So far, I've only ever done game dev streaming, so streaming my own, developing this game, essentially. But I was thinking I would do a little bit of game streaming, and I would be streaming Shadow of the Colossus to kind of pay my respects to Bluepoint, who got shut down recently, which I think is a crime, straight out crime. And I'm not exactly sure when that is going to happen, but I was thinking it might happen during the weekend actually. So here on this very channel is where that would happen actually. Now that we have a live stream channel, we might as well use it for live streaming, right? And so if you are interested in that, interested in seeing me play through Shadow of the Colossus, then maybe you should subscribe. Oh, that's not good. The remake specifically. I don't actually have a PS2 anymore, but the PS4 version, excellent, excellent game. Rest in peace, Bluepoint. Indeed. I don't know what they're smoking over there. I've never seen John Linneman from Digital Foundry as mad as he was in the last DF. What is it? DF Direct or whatever it's called. DF podcast thingy. Just specifically because of this. I thought I was mad at it, but he was like furious. Well, he's kind of, you know, he's not very animated when he's furious, but he was quite mad at the Sony leadership there. So yeah, I don't know what is going on. I've made them get rid of Bluepoint. But anyway, it gives me a reason to play through that game on stream. There are certain aspects of that game that like have inspired some of the design decisions that I'm making with this one. Just the way I approach certain things, not anything directly, but that game is a pretty big influence on some things. Traction Point. And I know it's not actually Bluepoint's game to begin with, but they made an excellent remake of it, and so I was thinking I would play it. Okay, so here we can. Let's move this over to the game engine. First of all, there was something I was wanting to fix here. What was it? What was it? This one, right? I think I need to fix that at least. Very quiet game. Yes, it is very quiet, except when it's not. Like it is, it has its kind of solitary riding around, and then it has it's basically a boss fight game, and that is the most confusing thing to me, because I absolutely hate boss fights in games. Like, I can't stand them. No offense to anyone who likes boss fights. I kind of wish I would like boss fights, but I've given up on so many games because of some stupid boss fight that I just can't play through. And the fact that like Shadow of the Colossus is like one of my all-time favorite games ever, and it's basically just a boss fight after boss fight, it's quite remarkable. But then in between those colossi, you're basically just riding around on your horse, collecting fruit and lizards and looking at the landscape. It's kind of magical, but it's also very kind of solitary. Right. So here we have a little bit of terrain, of actual terrain. Oh, and I should... What is going on here? Ah, okay, yeah, this is the place that hasn't been finalized yet. I can maybe melt some of this away a little bit, but I don't need to pay that much attention to it. Yeah, here we have a little bit of actual terrain at the bottom of the ravine. I wonder if I actually want to have that. Like, I want terrain here on these drivable areas, but you're not really supposed to drive on the bottom of the ravine here. I don't know, is this a ravine or a canyon? Yeah, so I don't know if I actually want to keep this here. So it might be that we will just quite simply have meshes everywhere here on the bottom and then just make them look nice. Specifically because we don't need to really worry about how drivable it is. Let's see, in ASO I made it so you can run away from the boss fights and come back to them later. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little Breath of the Wildy, right? Like you have some of those really tough units there, kind of like they're like jumping around in circles and doing things like that, and you can sort of see them from afar, and then you can go have a try if you could kill them, and then if you can't, you can typically just run away and then decide, okay, I'm gonna come back when I have leveled up, or you know, not come back, which is it's quite important for people like me who is just like boss fights. I hate boss fights. And then there are many games that I've just given up on because of boss fights. Like Nier Automata was one of them. It's a really excellent game. Many ways. I just couldn't with some of those bosses. Not to mention, of course, all the FromSoft games that I might want to experience, like for the lore and everything. I'm just too bad. People say get good, and I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna get good, so I'm just gonna stop playing. Unfortunately. So, needless to say, there's not going to be any boss fights in Traction Point. Unless I surprise you and have like a super hard boss fight at the end. Just for shits and giggles, but I wouldn't expect that. Okay, folks. This is actually this is going pretty well. Thanks to everyone who came to hang out today. It's been nice having at least a few people around, even though this is kind of like in the middle of the workday. But I unfortunately have to end. Oh, I'm getting a phone call exactly right now. 1 second. Alright, so I'm getting the call of duty here. I have to take my kid to soccer practice. Anyway, thanks for coming to hang out today. This was actually kind of nice, and I did get a fair bit of work done here. So the next step for me here would be to probably tweak this fog a little bit, because it's super heavy here. Only really realizing that now. And then adding in this large plane, which is gonna sort of establish the place in the world for this particular level here. But yeah, I think this is kind of coming together kind of nicely. So it would be kind of nice to keep doing this, but unfortunately I can't do that right now. However, if you want to see more of this stuff, stay tuned for more. Hit the subscribe button, like the stream, do all of the things. We are at 49 subscribers. So if any of you 3 guys are not subscribed, please subscribe and get us to 50, and you will have my eternal gratitude. Because yeah, we need some more subscribers on this live stream channel, so it gets visible to more people. If you would want to see some Shadow of the Colossus streaming, I'm hoping to do some of that kind of soon. It might already happen this weekend, or it might not. I'm gonna have to get my Elgato working for that. I've never done anything anything of the sort. So there's a little bit of figuring out there to do, but should be some interesting things, at least for me as a first-time game streamer there as well. And of course, if you want to know more about the game, join the Discord. You can play the Pre-Alpha 3 today. Join the main channel where we have lots and lots of videos and live streams. And have an excellent weekend. I'll see you guys next time.